Hi, welcome to Pro-spectives, episode 10. You know who we are. I'm Jess Provencher with Lair Realty Partners, and this is my co-host,
Keith Valancourt.
And we're going to jump right into it right away. So I think this article from Inman, the tug of war between millennials and boomers, is the story of our market, 100%. The baby boomers were the biggest generation. They came in and they've really set the economic stage for the whole country moving forward. And the boomers were certainly impacted by the crash that happened in 2008. So prior to 2008, the average person stayed in their home for 5 years. After 2008, that's really increased up to 10. At this point, most boomers have mortgages that are completely paid off, or they have that super low interest rate on a small amount. And what's happening is they're not moving. Not only are they not moving, they're not retiring, and they're not moving because they're in their dream house. Their family is now large enough that they're having their children and their grandchildren, and they're still having parties at their big house. And so they're staying in those homes. Well, what does that do? That means they're holding on to that inventory, and therefore Gen Zs and millennials
not getting turned over. Yeah.
Can't get into those properties. This, I thought it was interesting, it says 44 million Americans have hit their prime home buying age, which is between 26 and 35. 44 million Americans.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And there's no properties for them.
Inventory.
There's no inventory. Baby boomers find little incentive to move and lose access to their historically low mortgage rates. I'm torn between that because I think it's more a function of there is nothing happening in their lives that is forcing a move.
Sure.
So people move because of life events. They get married, they get divorced, they have children, their children move out. Those kinds of reasons, jobs, like they move because of a life event. Not so much
when you're comfortable, right?
Exactly.
When you get a little uncomfortable, something changes in your life, something big like that. You're right.
And so with what happened with COVID, there's very few people now moving for jobs because you can work from most places. Have really transitioned to really being able to work from everywhere. And baby boomers aren't having any of those life events that catapult a move. Right? They're not having more children. They're probably not getting divorced if they've made it this far. Right. They
don't want to go through the rigmarole of selling and looking for a new place because they're going to run into a lot of the same issues there on the back end.
Exactly.
And then, like you said, they're not relocating. It's still an inventory situation, big time.
Yeah, and there's this quote says. There are a lot of people in that age demographic, we're talking about boomers, who've said, I don't really have an interest in downsizing because the home I'm in is my dream home. It's where my children and grandchildren are now gathering for holidays, special events. There's little necessity or incentive to sell, which is really interesting.
People think that new homes are just going to come and fill in those fill in those gaps, and it's going to be more of the same, really.
Yeah.
There's not going to be enough homes that quickly. That's something that they can calculate, right? How many homes?
New construction homes. Yeah. And they're talking about that, but the truth is it's not going to happen quickly enough.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
There's less land, especially in more desirable areas, right? They're more populated areas. There's less land to develop on. Though the cost of wood and stuff has come down, the overall expenses for building are still pretty high.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the truth is that the cost of the median sale price for new homes, meaning new construction homes, in February of this year was $427,000.
Oh yeah.
But that's 19% higher than the median cost of existing homes, which was $359,000. So if you're in that first-time home buyer's market, if you're a millennial, if you're a Gen Xer and it's your first home, you're really looking at under $400,000. Yeah. So even if there is new construction available, if the boomers aren't moving into it, maybe you can't afford to move into it. It doesn't solve our inventory crisis unless these are smaller homes or whatever. So I think it's really interesting, fascinating to me, the demographic impact on housing. Housing is a huge economic driver, and there's just way more to it than what we just simply say. Oh, rates are high, people aren't going to move. That's just not the whole story.
Sure, one small piece. Yep.
Yeah. So I want to, there is opportunity out there. It just maybe, I don't know what you're telling your buyers in this, but what I'm saying is, Barbara Corcoran has a quote. She says, you just have to get in the game. You just have to get in the game. And I'm having that hard conversation with my clients, and I wonder if you are too. You're currently renting a 2-bedroom apartment at $1,700 a month, and you want a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, single family that, frankly, at $400,000 is going to run you here in New Hampshire roughly around $3,000 a month. That's a significant increase in your payment. And to be honest, you might not be able to get a 3-bedroom, 1-bath in good condition in that price range. And so there's discouragement, and I see this in my buyers, and they say, well, I'm going to keep renting. It's like, that's not the solution,
sure,
right? Because that continuing to rent isn't getting you ahead. It didn't get you the space you wanted. It didn't get you the location you wanted. And it's not gaining you any equity. So it's not getting you closer. So what I would say is there something in the middle, right?
Sure.
One, could you buy that 2-bedroom apartment and get it for less money, or the money that you're even paying? Let's say your mortgage is even $1,700 for that 2-bedroom condo, garden style. Over the next 5 years, you're going to gain equity.
Of course.
So you've kept your payment the same. You're living in the same situation you would be living in if you're renting. But
paying 100% interest
when
you're renting, right?
You're paying 100% interest when you rent. You're paying 6%, whatever. And then you have the equity. So then when we go to sell 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, you're taking out that equity, which might be $50,000, which is a lot more money than the 10 or 15
sure.
you have now to parlay into now going into this.
Sure.
Or maybe there's an in-between. Maybe we can find a condo that has a townhouse style condo. It's still 2 bedrooms, but it's at around $300,000, and you're somewhere in between. You're paying $2,500 a month, whatever. So I think that's the thing. It's not all or nothing.
Yep. And I think that it's with my buyers and most first-time home buyers, I find that it's really going out and bringing them to those showings and letting them see the different houses and see what their price range, what they think their price range is compared to in this market, what their price range really is. And so I find the more that you show these, you get a couple offers out there, you get a couple offers rejected for X, reasons from X, Y, Z. You come back and then they find, okay, we have to be more flexible. We have to narrow this down, or we have to concentrate on something else, or we're not going to get everything we want, but these are the most important things that we want. So for me, when I'm talking to buyers, I feel like the most is showing them, getting out there. I mean, you go to some of these open houses right now, and it doesn't take that many for your buyer to say, oh, okay, this is how it's going to be. So get out there and check them out. And then, but you have to come to a realization of what you can get versus what you think you can get.
100%. And also just recognizing that, if honestly, it's similar to cars, right? Like, I have a strict amount that I'll pay on my car payment. But if I go to the dealership, I want the $40,000 or $50,000 car. Of course I want it. The leather
for $300 a month. That's what it is, right?
Exactly. And so the solution is not to walk out of the dealership without a car.
Nope.
The solution is to adjust my expectations and to get into something. The difference with cars and houses is cars are a depreciating asset, but housing is an appreciating asset. So even if you're buying the level down from what you thought you wanted, it's helping you get to what you want.
Right. Especially if you're just planning on most first-time home buyers usually are like a 5 to 10 year now, right? 10 year. So if you're in that 5, 10, 15 year range, you get into something for sure.
100%.
Get some equity.
Get it. So speaking of that, let's talk about New Hampshire in specific. New Hampshire specifically.
Yep.
I kind of don't want to beat a dead horse. Like we keep talking about the lack of inventory, but it's just
more of the
brutal. It's more of the same. So this is from May, and we're down 22.3% in closed sales. That's almost a quarter.
That's tough.
We are down new listings by 18.5%. So, I mean, it all plays into each other, right? So if we're down almost 20% on the number of new listings, then obviously the number of closings is going to be down, because even if all of those closed, it would be less. So, I mean, inventory remains the name of the game in both. Down 22.3% in closed sales in single family, down 24.9% of closed sales in condos. So, when I first bought, people said condos weren't as good of an investment. That has not been the case over the last 5 years. I mean, they're going up even more quickly. But I do want to say something about this. We currently we regularly report on median sales. And I want to be very clear about what a median sale is. The median sale price is not the average sale price. The median is the number that falls in between. And the example that I recently heard that makes this really make sense is if you have 2 dimes and a nickel, you put them in order, nickel, dime, dime. The median is the middle one, the dime. Now, if you have 2 nickels and a dime, or even 2 nickels and a quarter, you go nickel, nickel, quarter, the nickel is the median. That's not the average. So when we say the median sale price is $465,
that's a good way to put it.
That means that they took these 959 closed sales and they put them in order, and the one that was 400 and whatever the middle is, I'm not doing the math in my head, that was 465. That's not necessarily a good representation of the average sale price, and it can be very misleading. So I just want to make that very clear.
I like that analogy
there. Talk about 465, 449, whatever.
Sure.
That
it's the middle.
It's the middle.
You have your low, your high, your median is going to be right smack in the middle.
Which is not necessarily the average.
Right.
So taking our two dimes and a nickel, that's 25. So the median is 13.5, but 2 nickels and a dime is only 20. The average, sorry, I said that wrong. Let me back up. 2 nickels and a dime, your median is 5 cents. The average is 10 cents.
There you go.
2 dimes and a nickel, the median is 10 cents, but the average is 13.5. So, it's not, it can be, my father always told me to be weary of statistics. You can always make them sound or look better, and that's the same thing with the median. So when you're looking at the news and you're hearing, median price down, blah, 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 take it with a grain of salt. It's just the number that's falling in the middle. And, talk to your local agent to see what really is going on.
Either way, sales volume down because
inventory is down.
We need sellers.
Anyone interested in selling? And I don't know if you've heard this, but this is what I've heard. Well, where will I go? Well, there is places for you to go, and typically, if you're selling, you're either downsizing,
sure,
or you gotta up.
Yeah, you want to go somewhere. You want to change your house. You want to try switch something up.
So what my point is you're not typically looking in the same price range. So let's take this as an example. If you're moving out of a house anywhere between $350 and $450, if you're selling that house, you're going to have an incredible opportunity there, right? That is a very high market. But if you're selling that house because you want to move into a $500,000, $600,000 house, I'm not seeing the same level of intensity in that market. Right. So it might be a frenzy to sell your house in that 400 range, that midpoint range, but you may have a lot less competition at the higher value.
That's a good point.
The other thing is, even if you want to buy a little bit lower, you're going into a condo or whatever, you're coming out with so much cash equity that you have a leg up on other buyers, these first-time buyers that maybe only have 3 or 5%. So I would not be afraid of where I go next, right? I feel
Sure.
like if you're not in your dream home today and you've been in your home for the last even 3 years, like, let's go get it.
And call us. We can get you a value on your home. We can
100%.
talk about places that you might want to go. Maybe a lot of times it's just another brain, another set of ears to kind of go over things, bounce some ideas
That's
off
a
of.
great point. My very, very, very first clients, my first sale ever, which was in 2018, April of 2018, we got them into this great townhouse, and they recently, they've since had a baby, are like, we think it's time, but they didn't think they could. They genuinely didn't think they could. They almost canceled the meeting with the lender because they were like, we don't want to get, and they were blown away by what they're able to do. And I would say that's it too. Don't let your fear hold you back from getting the real information that you need. Whether you're a first-time buyer, you're looking to sell, information is gold, and having the right information can really allow you to make the best decisions.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, agents, this one's for you. How do you handle questions about schools and neighborhoods while maintaining fair housing? Because, we take an ethics that we won't steer people.
And we all like, and
so how do you do that?
Keep things general term. Schools are like aesthetics, different to different people, right?
Yes.
Some people have a certain way that they want something to look. They have a certain way that they want their kid to go to a certain school, and other people are not like that. So it's very touchy subject to some people. Some people it's not touchy to. So I like to keep things in general terms. I like to get as much information on these schools as possible. Even making a trip to the school, going into the school and going into the office, a lot of times they'll have information and stuff like that if your client doesn't know about schools or wants to know more about certain schools. But yeah, I kind of look at it like aesthetics. Like it's kind of different to different people.
Yeah, I think that was a really good point that this article from Nair put out, and is that what does good mean to you versus what does good mean to the client? And I think coming from an education background, this topic is like more sensitive to me. And I typically say it's really a lot less about the school and more about the parents and the interaction you have with your children, and who you're monitoring, who they spend time with, and whatever. And I also really try and ask that question, like, well, what do you mean, right? So if you have a child with special needs, a good school is going to mean something very different to you. Or if I hate to say it, but we still are a very much primarily white state. And so I have clients sometimes that they're like, well, I want there to be a little bit more diversity because we're a diverse family, and I don't want to move into this town where they're going to be the only colored kid or Asian kid or Indian kid or whatever. And those are conversations that I don't want to, I want to be very careful to maintain fair housing. And so the suggestion that the article gave, which I think is huge, is directing them to objective data. So whenever I have a family that's asking me something along those lines, like, is there diversity in this town or whatever, I direct them directly to the census information on the state.
Yeah.
They can look it up and see this percentage is white, this percentage is Hindu, this percentage is whatever, because I don't want to necessarily know what they're looking for. I do to help them. But
right, you have their best interest at heart, but at the same time, fair housing is
very serious. And so I really want this just to direct them continually to objective information, to statistics, and also to have those conversations about what does good school mean to you. I mean, one thing they mentioned in here, which I think is super important, is a lot of the sites we have access to give you testing data. Well, is a test really answering their question about what good, or are they asking about sports? Are they interested in access to technology? What about, like I said, special needs? Or is your kid super into art and that's what a good school, like, I can't just answer that from my perspective of what was good for my kids. I need you to know, and so I'm going to give you that information.
You can answer from your pro-spective.
From my purpose, I can't. But I did think one thing was interesting is Realtors Property Resource, which I use all the time.
Yes.
They do have a tool called Niche, which captures more information about schools than just the test scores. So if you're, if you're a realtor, you should have access to RPR, and that's a huge bonus to point your clients to. So they can get more information than just, well, they scored well.
And you don't have to avoid the topic altogether. There are plenty of avenues to send people and to get people the information that they're looking for, because it's going to always be different.
Yeah, and I think actually,
you say
to
schools,
your point, it's not just schools, it's all those things, like accessibility to a church or walking, or
all those fair housing issues, topics.
Yes, all of them. And so having resources, I thought one thing that was interesting, they said creating kind of a little template or a workbook that you can give to all of your clients, then you're delivering the same information to all of them. I love that. That's similar to our resource booklet that we give out that has like pictures and all of that, but this would be kind of a breakdown of
could be added in. That's a good idea.
Be added in. Let's do it.
I like that.
You do the work and I'll
no problem. That's
all right, guys. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you today. Please like and follow. Send us any questions you'd be interested in us talking about, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.